Welcome to the Izzy Chinche Show. I realize it's typically when I do sit down to rest, I sit down to rest and then I just go on my phone and I'm consuming again. And it's like I haven't actually given given my brain a chance to be bored. And that boredom is important. And we've tried to completely eliminate boredom. I'm so excited you're able to tune in. Join me as I interview athletes, entrepreneurs, and high achievers. I also share much about my life struggles, trials, and successes in hopes to inspire you. I intend for this show to be one of the greatest shows of all time, so your listening and support means the most to me. My goal is to help inspire as many people as possible, so please share with a friend if you enjoy just one thing from today's episode. Together, we can help more people grow. Let's get started. Thank you for joining and being on the show. I'm excited.
So excited. We're going to have such a great conversation.
Yes. Why don't you start with telling me about Pilates, how you got into it and how it's helped you and just why you're passionate about it, like all of it. Let's kind of get straight to it.
Oh my gosh, let's go. Hello, everybody. I'm Olesya Webb, and I am a Pilates specialist and an educator. I came into the Pilates world probably whenever I was 12 or 13 years old. So it turns out that my coaching, I am a elite level gymnast. That's my athletic background. My coaches gave us Pilates for cross training, Pilates on the mat. And so I remember doing all of this like conditioning type of work at the end of our training sessions. I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? This is so hard, so core centric. And I was like, 12, 13 years old, like listening to coaches, all of that. And then, so that was my first exposure whenever I was 12 or 13 years old. But I did not know that that is called Pilates. Later on, when I became a teacher for my profession, I went to Pilates school. It was a 2-year program for education, and we're doing mat work. And I'm like, I've done this before. And I just like, it was the coolest, like connecting of the both worlds. I was like, my body has experienced this before. And now I'm in school to become a teacher, to teach a method that I've already tried before.
Yeah, you've done. Yeah.
It was so beautiful. My love for Pilates is huge. I'm a big believer in the method because it has done wonders for me as an athlete, but also outside of sports. You know, I've been in a couple of car accidents. I've had some unfortunate things happen to me where I used Pilates as my physical therapy. So in a lot of ways, it has been my glue, and it's just what a beautiful method.
I love that. I love that. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And so I think something that's really cool about Pilates now is that they are adding that like resistance piece to it. I feel like it wasn't so much that, maybe even like 10 years ago, but now I feel like they really like with the straps and with the machines. And so now they're adding that like a very safe resistance training. At least that's my perspective, especially someone who's like cautious about going to the gym and putting weights on the bar. It's like, we still need resistance training. We still need strength training. And like Pilates is such a great way to get that. What are your kind of like some of your thoughts on that?
I completely agree. And the cool thing about Pilates, it's a method where I always talk about when I train my athletes and when I coach, I always talk about the and. Pilates is a beautiful method where you get to do the and. You get to lengthen and strengthen. So you're doing both at the same time. And the more you do Pilates, the better you become at it. It's not like you go to a class and boom, your body understands the placement, because it is so different than anything else. It is not yoga. It is not spin, right? It is not classical strength training, but it has small components of each where it becomes the and this and that all at the same time. So that for an athlete, I think that's huge because no one has the time.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like you really have a schedule that is so tight and you got to fit everything in and you have to have all of your ducks in a row. And I just feel like incorporating Pilates is very smart for athletes.
Yeah. So just even I mean, are there things that athletes could do either at like the beginning or the end of a training session that is pretty easy that they could, like just even Google, like what are these kind of some of those things that I should be doing to strengthen and lengthen, my body? Yeah.
I highly, highly, highly recommend that I start and end all of my sessions and I kind of assign homework with these two things. And that's it. Because again, you got to respect the athlete's schedule and an athlete is being pulled in all types of different directions at any given point in the week. And so I like to give small little tidbits that they're actually going to do. So I assign two things. Number one is a glute bridge, focused on your spine instead of the glutes. And so everybody knows a glute bridge, right? Down in the back, and you elevate your hips up towards the ceiling. And instead of just plopping down, you articulate down through the spinal column to get the posterior chain to just slightly release. And what that does, it helps to massage the spine internally, and it helps to move some of that synovial fluid up the spinal column and down the spinal column. So it becomes a effective way to turn on your glutes and your hamstrings, of course, but also becomes a very effective way to calm the central nervous system and give the spine a little bit of a reprieve. So that is number one. And I like to start my sessions and end my sessions. And it's about 10, 15 reps. It's not like we're doing 100 glute bridges. Yeah. 10, 15, you're focused on the spine, you're focused in on the breath, that strong mind to body connection. And then once you're down on the ground, you take your hands, you cup them, and you place them to the top of the ribs, right where the diaphragm lives, and you do 5 calming breaths.
I love
and that is it.
Okay. All right. I like that. That's something I feel I could do. And I like that you said that it's a glute bridge focused on the spine. I was talking about that. Like, I think I do have a lot of like lower back compression and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so that sounds like something that would be helpful. You said the synovial fluid? Is that what you said? What was it?
Yeah, so the synovial fluid we can say that without getting too nerdy about it, it's a natural liquid within the body that helps to lubricate the major joints of the body. And so it's in different parts of the body. And if you move in in a more mindful manner, the fluid naturally will move throughout the body, and it will go where it needs to go to help lubricate the body. So it's kind of like, you open the door and the door creaks, like the hinge, it needs some vitamin E oil. That's essentially what synovial fluid is for the major joints in your body.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. I love that. Learn something new. Learn something new every day. I love that. Talking to people who know all the terms and stuff. Okay. So you'd say what are the best ways to do that? You said be intentful or mindful, moving in a mindful manner, but would that just be doing those glute bridges? And what about the rolling your back up type one? Like, what are some other things that help get that fluid where it needs to be?
Yeah, exactly. So the cool thing about the body is it already knows what to do. So as you go through your workout, as you go through your active recovery, the body's naturally doing that for you. And so the reason why I like to, do the glute bridges, then breathe, start like that and end like that, because if you give your central nervous system an opportunity to be less chaotic, so less up here and more grounded, rooted, and centered, that's when the body really kicks in. And that's when all 38 systems of the body really stabilize and neutralize. Yeah. And then the way fluid is floating all around.
Yeah. So I like how you're talking about that central nervous system. It's something I hear a lot about. I don't feel I'm very educated on that. Like, there's different things that I know, but I feel like now on Instagram or whatever, there are so many people who throw so many random things out there, and you're like, based on what is this, the central nervous system? But what are some things that you really think people should know about their nervous systems and how to calm it and how to connect to it and or make it a positive thing?
Yes, of course. So let's really focus on from an athletic point of view. As an athlete, think of yourself as the physical body as an on switch and an off switch. So whenever you're on, everything is lighting up, everything is going. It's a big energetic push. You are, if you're in school, you have your school stuff. If you're a young professional, you have your work stuff. And so it's like you're balancing all of these things and you're going, 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 going. You're kind of on all the time. Central nervous system is on. And then at some point, we have to turn the lights off. That is where down regulation of the central nervous system comes in. So it's like, I always tell my athletes, think of your body as an iPhone. Mm-hmm. You plug it in at night, you have some sort of point to recharge. If you don't, your system is going to crash and burn, or you're going to be overtired. You're going to have a silly mistake, which is going to lead to a silly injury. And then boom, you're out of for the season. So it's very much knowing I'm in a push season, I am on, but I know that active recovery is important. I know that breath work is important. I know that doing something that is low impact, sprinkling in Pilates, that is important. So it's doing things that are a little bit calmer. Now, calmer doesn't mean that doesn't mean that your workout is not hard, because if we're talking about the main topic is Pilates, Pilates is a little bit slower, or can be, but that doesn't mean that it's easy. Yeah. So a lot of people are equating slow is easy. Speed doesn't equate to, it's you're just going to get tired faster.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's just very much knowing that keep it simple, on, off. Mm-hmm. Knowing throughout the week, where is my active recovery? Where do I get to be off? Where am I down regulating?
I feel like that's something that's so hard, like just even in the business world, being an entrepreneur, being a coach, it is hard to turn it off, especially because we do have phones. So I get to that point where it's like, yeah, technically it's my off time. I am unplugged. I don't have my phone anywhere near me, but I'm still like thinking like, oh, I got to send this email out, this marketing, I got to do this networking thing. Like, what's the next thing? And it's like, oh, I got to sit and learn how to chill. But I think the more that you're in it, I'm also like inspired and I love it. So it keeps me going. But then it's like, I know I got to turn off. I got to be able to chill and recover. And that's something I've been really focusing on is my sleep. I realized I was on a pattern of I would wake up throughout the night at least once to get up and go pee. And I realized that was costing my sleep so much. And all I had to do to cut that out was just like stop drinking an hour before or whatever I had to cut out. I would chug water right before I went to sleep. So I was like, of course I'm waking up. I need to go pee. And I was like, all right, that's something I had to shift on. Like, where can I maximize my rest? I was like, we're done drinking water, 30 minutes, 45 minutes before bed. Like, we're going to bed.
I love this so much, because what you're really hitting on is smaller habits. It's like those micro habits. So it's very much like, are you living mindfully, or are you going throughout your week in a very chaotic state? Because if most of the time, if you're in a chaotic state, you're not even noticing your habits, let alone your micro habits, which lead to a very specific type of life. So it's like, if you're living in a constant state of chaos, well, of course you're not going to have time or space to take a breath, to know when to stop drinking water, or know when to double up, so it's just like, especially as entrepreneurs, or especially as student athletes, nobody has the time.
Yeah.
This is where intentionality comes in. You make the time.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I love that you're hitting on that, because I feel like that's something that needs to be talked about. And I also feel like for me, I was talking to one of my other friends, and I met her at the same conference that I met you at. And I was talking to her, and we were talking about, she was like, I feel like, because I was talking to her, one of my goals for this week was to kind of slow down and chill out. And like, I put in like real specific things to do. I'm like, okay, I'm sitting outside in my backyard for like 45 minutes. For me, that's like a really good reset, right? And she's like, I feel good right now though. Like, I have a lot going on. I'm doing all these things. And I was like, you know what? Ride that out. Like, do all those things, like keep it crazy, like, because it's energizing you right now. But then realize as you start to get tired, that high is gonna, like, you're gonna max out. And that's when you got to respond to it and be like, that's okay. I don't need to then crash and be like, oh my gosh, like now I have no energy. It's kind of like listening to that, because there are times, you know, where we're up and then we're down and then we're kind of chilling and respecting it.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just kind of like, you know, I like to look at nature for big life lessons.
Yes.
That sound like a lot of woo, but like stay here with me for a second and follow. But you know, like we have different seasons of life and entrepreneurship and training. You know, you have your
Yeah.
on season and you have your off season. And it's kind of like summer doesn't last forever. You
Yeah.
can't like push forever.
Yeah.
Winter's gonna come and you hibernate and you rest and your schedule kind of shifts. And
Yeah.
hopefully your food habits kind of shift and your skincare routine and your water intake. It's just like living
Oh,
seasonally is really like intentional living. And it's just like, especially for athletes, I mean, like we all understand that we have on season or
yeah.
in season and off season. And
Yeah.
how you train in on season is very different than off season. So it's like, take that into your other life, like once
Yeah.
you graduate, once you become a young professional.
Yes. No, I love it. I'm gonna pause 1 second because they're being
Go yell at someone.
okay, right back on. I just was like, can you guys please be quiet? I didn't say it that nice. I was like, I'm in the podcast right now. We're good though. Okay. We were talking about seasons though. So, and flowing with seasons. And I think that's so important, but that's still something like, even though I know it, it's still hard to feel it and accept it and be like, okay, this is the slower season. But something my older brother, I remember one time he told me, he was like, life will tell you when you need to speed up. It's going to tell you. Cause I was like, I feel like I'm too chill right now. And he was like, nope, enjoy that. Cause life's going to hit you and you're going to have to speed up. So
What wise words from brother. Like that is spectacular. What a nugget of wisdom. That's awesome.
I know. I love it. I literally told my friend that today. I was like, life's going to tell you when you need to speed up. Like, let's remember that and remind myself of that. Like, we'll know. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's just like, I love that you're hitting on the fact that it's like, we need those reminders because
Hmm.
we're so busy, because we have a long list of to-dos and a long list of tasks and a list of like needle moving activities for our businesses and relationships and XYZ. We forget.
Yeah.
We forget the things that are simplest, but it's like the juice or the secret sauce is in the simplicity. Like
Yes.
we were talking about, it's the on switch and the off switch. It's the
Yes.
summer and the winter, like the
Yeah.
sun and the moon. If you have too much, like if you have too much sun,
You get sunburned.
you're gonna burn up and explode.
Yeah.
If you have too much moon, you're
Yeah.
gonna get cold, chilly, and then you're gonna freeze. You need the both.
Yeah.
It's the and
Yeah.
strength and length.
I really like that. I like that and piece. And that's something I've even tried to bring that into the way that I speak. It's like, because I would say but instead of this and if that's just like, again, it goes back to intentionality. Like, okay, what am I trying to accomplish in this, conversation? So
I love that small reframe because it's like that small micro shift. I did the same thing, especially whenever I'm writing emails to like with coaches and everything. I no longer put but in there. I always put
mhm.
and because I
Yeah,
want it to come across differently.
yeah,
And so research kind of shows that if you say but, there's a part of the brain and the ears that completely like stop listening. So it's like you hear the first part of the sentence, but as
yeah.
soon as the ears and the brain like hear but, you don't hear the second half of the sentence.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I want to see that. Yeah, whatever, wherever you learn that, I want to see that study for sure.
Yeah,
But
I was like, oh my God,
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Just even the other, like the way that people hear you, especially, when we are coaching, instead of saying, but just adding and it's like, oh, and also let's listen to this piece. So what are some of the things that you do then to help you stay regulated, to stay, centered, through entrepreneurship and coaching and all the things?
So for me as a coach and as a teacher, as a business owner, we all wear many, many hats.
Mhm.
I purposefully schedule time in between clients.
Mhm.
So I give myself between 10 and 15 minutes between teams, between one-on-one clients, between virtual training sessions, because I also need to do some breath work. I
Yeah.
also have a spine, right? I'm a human being. I do some glute bridges to flush my spine to make sure that I am grounded, to make sure that as a coach, I'm grounded, rooted, and collected. It's very
Mhm.
important for me because as the leader in the room, you bring in that energy. What
Mhm.
your energy is like, the team's going to pick up on that. The athlete's going to pick up on that.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So I specifically schedule in those small breaks so then I can roll out my shoulders, so I can move my neck, so I can kind of take care of my body to have those hourly resets. So to
Yes.
me, that has been a huge game changer
Yeah.
is to do hourly resets. I no longer wait for the weekend to do to get like a sports therapy massage, to go put my face in the sun, to really focus in on water. I'm actively recovering on the hourly basis.
I love that. Ah, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, I feel like I've more recently tried to work on that as well because it's especially when you're starting out your business, like you said, you're wearing so many hats. You're doing everything, and you get pulled in so many directions. But then you just start your performance starts to decline if you're not checking in with yourself. And it's like for me that same thing that breath work and movement. I mean, honestly, since I learned it, I started doing a lot of the tapping resets, like the lymph node tapping. That for me is
Love
huge.
that.
I love.
That's fantastic. And the thing is, the biggest point of tapping is to downregulate the central nervous system. See,
Yeah.
it all comes back to the central nervous system. It's all about that self regulation. And especially being in a position of leadership and you guiding others, that's huge.
Yeah.
Because again, it's the piece of internet, it's the piece of being intentional within your coaching, your sessions, your business. If you're coming into your business or your life, into your relationship, into whatever, or that business meeting, and you're all like this, how are you going to perform?
Yeah. Yeah. No, all over the place. And that's the thing, like even preparing for meetings, taking deep breaths, like what's the tone? I mean, sometimes even if it's like my friend and I hopping on a Zoom, we're like, okay, we'll like stop and just like we just take some deep breaths and be like, okay, like what's the tone that we want to set for us just talking about our businesses and like what we're doing. It's key. It's key. And so much of it just comes back to that breath work.
That
Breathe.
is phenomenal. No, it's just like for one of my papers in Pilates school, I wrote about the breath of life. Whenever a baby comes into the world, one of the first things doctors and nurses check for is the lungs, the breath. And
Yeah.
it's like, whoa, that's to me, that is so interesting. Like you come into the world and the first thing people check on is how's the breath, how's the lungs.
Yeah.
That should signal something in us. Like
Yeah. Yeah. Coming back to the breath work. I really like that. So what was there anybody else that because I knew it happened in gymnastics that you got into it, but like was there someone else who was in Pilates that you would like inspired you and made you even think about going down that road, or was it literally just kind of stumbled upon it?
So for me, my background in gymnastics, I love gymnastics, live and breathe gymnastics. And that was my life for a very, very long time. And I remember, and I was the gymnast. And at some point it was time for me to move on. I became a coach and choreographer and certified judge. And so I was just like in the world, in the vortex of gymnastics, if you will. And I remember one of my students was literally going off to college. She was graduating. And I just felt it so deeply in my heart. It's time for me to graduate as well. It's time for me to
Oh,
stretch. It's time for me to learn. It's time for me to step outside of my zone of comfort and do something different. And so that led me down. I love people. I love teacher. I believe that one of my gifts is I'm a natural teacher. And
mhm.
so I was like, well, I still would like to be client facing and I would still love to be in movement. I just don't know what that is. And
Mhm.
so I started kind of going down the rabbit hole of learning. I I was gonna go to physical therapy school, but I realized during my observation hours there's still a lot of red tape with insurance companies, and I'm very much like, let's get down to the root, let's heal, let's give you the full client experience so that you can feel better, so you can like be in your full energy so you can feel amazing in your body. And then I realized, I was like, wait a minute, if I can be the bridge between physical therapy clinics and this other thing, I could build a very successful business and still lead and still serve and put good work out into the world. And so instead of going to physical therapy school, continuation of, I switched to Pilates school.
That's awesome.
And I'm so happy that I listened to my intuition,
Yeah.
because I am very happy most days in my business. And I believe that my business and my team in the studio, we do incredible work, and we're
Yeah.
making a difference every single day in people's lives through the method. And so for
Yeah.
that, I'm really, really grateful.
What kind of athletes are you mainly working with? Like what are the kinds of athletes that are coming in that you're training?
All types.
Yeah.
So we have football, we have basketball, we have track and field, we have tennis, we have baseball, and we
Okay.
have gymnasts, of course. We
Yeah.
have figure skaters,
Oh,
and we have aerialists.
wow. Yeah, you got a lot of points there. I love that. Okay. Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. And so all types of different sports, but you know what? Um, there is still a big thread through between all of these sports. All
Hmm.
the athletes are crazy booked. Their schedules are insane. They're exhausted. So that's where, again, that and comes in, the down regulation of the central nervous system, the strength and the length through the Pilates and the breath work. So it's just,
Yeah.
it comes together in a really beautiful way for all athletes.
So do you think there's, because I know just even my life, how busy I am, and I think about, oh my gosh, putting on like one more thing. But even is it beneficial? Because there are certain things where it's like, no, if you do this once a week, it doesn't even like you need to do it more than once a week. But what if that like is there benefits from just even doing it one time a week? Do you think that's worth it? Or is it like, no, if you really want some results, you need to be putting in, a couple hours a week? Or is there a balance where you're like, yeah, you could go once a week and like what are your thoughts on that?
I'm very much a person of like asking good questions and then asking better questions.
Mhm.
So, question number one is, do you want to continue to live and build how you're building? Do you want to be in that state of chaos all the time? Do you want to be in that state of perpetual busyness all the time?
Mhm.
Like, that's a very personal question, like yes or no.
Yeah.
You aren't able to fit in time for yourself. I think you're doing it wrong.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No,
You know,
I completely agree, but I'm saying for even someone, I'll just use myself, like I do work out every single day, right? I do work out every single day and I wouldn't want to switch all my workouts just to Pilates workouts. Like that's not wouldn't be my fit. So would
right.
it be beneficial for me to still do it like one time a week, and someone else like because there are some of those things where it's like, oh, you can join on like the Saturday or whatever. Like that's fun to me, but I'm like, is that still, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it completely does. So, what I would say to that is when you're in the gym, number one, good job, you already made it in. Linger 5 to 10 minutes longer and do your down regulation. I think a lot of people make the mistake of they go to the gym, they have an excellent workout, and then they're like, oh, bye. You got to
Okay.
give your body some time to go, because I believe a really high quality, healthy, sustainable workout is the bell curve.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people go up and then they go kind of down and then they leave. That's
I,
where you're shocking the central nervous system. So you got to bell curve a little bit smoother. So it's like you're already going at the gym. You already have a healthy habit of working out X times a week. Amazing.
I like that.
Cool down seriously.
Oh, I love
Don't leave the gym in a state where you're dysregulated, or don't leave the gym when you're like up here on the bell curve. Give your body, be kind to your body, be
that.
kind to your internal body. Because whenever you're moving and grooving, like everything is working,
Yeah.
everything is on. Give
Yeah.
yourself a second and then and then you walk out the door
Yeah.
feeling so good, feeling so grounded, like
Yeah.
being actually present. I think that's really powerful. And for me, I would never ask my clients to, like, if you're doing this, switch to this. Of course not. That's too big of a lifestyle change. And again, it has to be a fit for you. And I love that you mentioned that. So it's like I mentioned, amazing that you have a habit of doing this. Small tweak, small unlock. And I believe that's going to make a huge difference.
I love that. And I think that also speaks to just having transitional periods in your day. And
Yeah.
something that's like so huge. I think like how, and that's something I've been working on is even when I do pull into my driveway, like, okay, let's just take a couple deep breaths. What is my intention once I go inside my house? Am I just going to start reacting to like, oh, there's some dishes, oh, there's some mail, oh, there's, or am I, no, this is my plan. And just even having a plan, I'm going inside, I'm putting my things away, I'm drinking some water, and I'm going to sit down for like 3 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and just doing that. I don't do it enough. I am still, it's something I'm definitely working on. It's so valuable though. It's so valuable because otherwise it's like next thing, next thing, next thing, next thing, puts you in that state of chaos
Right.
constantly.
And all of those other things, they will continue to be there forever and always. They
Yeah.
will continue to be there. So it's like in real time, train yourself to go into it a little bit differently, go into it a little bit more regulated,
Yeah.
go into it a little bit more grounded in
Yeah.
yourself. And it is going to make a big difference in personal life and home life and business. And I love that you said about transitions. The highest performers, they know how to transition well.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. They know. I love it. I love that you said that because that's exactly it. It was really reading that the high performance habits book, and it's like you have to have the evidence is there. This is what the highest performers do. They transition well from their tasks, and it's like it's such a small thing because it's actually stopping. It's actually being able to have the discipline and stop, not just jump to the next thing and be like, hey, hold on. I had a kick ass workout. Let's chill for a second, appreciate myself for doing that, and take some deep breaths
Yeah.
and calm down for a moment. And then we can go on to the next and the next and the next. I love that though.
And then you go with such aliveness, and people
Mm-hmm.
notice that. And then they're like, what are you doing different?
Yeah. Just pausing for a moment, pausing and appreciating
That's
myself.
too easy. And the thing is like everything that we're talking about, it's not challenging things. It's challenging because we're so busy.
Yeah.
And it's just those small unlocks. It's just like we're not flipping the table here on the entire lifestyle overhaul.
Yeah.
Small little things over time make the biggest difference. And at this point, research really backs that up.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Yeah. And that's the thing that I want people listening to know. Like, we're talking about this because we both, I'm assuming, done some research there and read the book and know some things about the highest performers in the world. It's science backed. They've done so many studies on this. Like, there is no doubt that they have transitional times, and that's, you know what I mean? Like, that is what helps them perform so well. And I just want people listening to know that we're not just like, oh, we have transitional times. Like, this is research backed. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so the book that we're talking about is actually one of my favorite books, and I go back to it every year. It's called High Performance Habits, and it's got like a bright yellow color on it, so it's like you can't miss it.
Yeah, you
But
can.
it's a book that I go back to every year for my own personal development and for my own growth. And
Mhm.
it's just like the same thing over and over.
Yeah.
The biggest impact is going to be the smallest changes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so interesting to me because I even like I watch myself when I'm like, I know this is a very simple thing that I can do for myself, which is just stopping and taking some breaths. But I think it really is hard for someone who is disconnected from those habits and doesn't have the self-discipline to just go and do those things to do those things. And I know that even for me, I'm like, oh yeah, I've just rushed from task to task. I needed to take some time for myself, but it's like, yeah, it's not gonna come easy to you at first, right? At first, but then it is. And it's like recently I just cut out any kind of scrolling on my phone. I've been like, scrolling is just something that I'm not allowing myself to do. And I used to always have like a a 5 minute rule. Like no matter what, it was no more than 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, but if I do 5 minutes 5 times a day, like I'm still losing 25 minutes of my day consuming I don't even know what. It's not
Right.
serving me. And I've literally just been like, I'm done. I've cut that and I already feel better. I already feel
Amazing. Wow, congratulations.
oh, thank you.
That's huge. I'm celebrating you. And it's just like, dang, can you imagine what you're going to be able to accomplish now that you're actually freeing up time in your schedule?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, because I realize it's typically when I do sit down to rest,
Hmm.
I sit down to rest and then I just go on my phone and I'm consuming again. And it's
Right.
like I haven't actually given given my brain a chance to be bored. And that boredom is important. And we've tried to completely eliminate boredom, right? Because then I think people aren't thinking. If they're not bored, they're not actually thinking and questioning things. They're just like, oh, I can just go and consume my algorithm that's already like locked out to everything that I already believe in and da 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 da, and just confirm my own beliefs, opposed to let me just sit here and like think about some of the things that I even believe in. You know what I mean? Like there's just so many levels to it. There's so many levels
There's
to
so many levels. Yeah, it's absolutely a very nuanced conversation, if you
it.
will. And it's just kind of like creating time, creating space. What do I need to get rid of? What is working for me?
Yeah.
So it's like you decided that scrolling is no longer working for you. And look at you, you're thriving.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. That's exactly it. It's not working for me and I'm done with this. Yeah. And then being able to just have, I think, especially as a coach, and you understand that's like it's very important to be able to be introspective and because then I'm just a hypocrite, like, and it's not that I have everything down and I'm perfect by any means, but it's like I'm not going to be talking on my podcast about shit that I don't believe in, like the things that I truly believe in that I'm trying to do in my life to make myself a better person. It's like, if especially if you're trying to speak to other people, then you gotta like, raise the level and meet your own standards.
Exactly.
But I was gonna ask a little bit about some of the athletes that you work with and some of like the biggest changes that like you've seen that they have had from Pilates, from working with you, from working with, an awesome, amazing coach like yourself. Tell me a little bit about it.
I I always like to say it's like, hold on, let me take a sip.
Yeah, yeah. Take a sip. Yeah, absolutely. Take a sip. Take a deep breath. Like tap in, whatever you.
Tap it in.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite things, one of my favorite feedback, wait, one of my favorite feedbacks came from a basketball team. And
Mm,
the guys were like, Coach Olesya. And I'm like, what's happening? And they're like, we feel so bouncy after your sessions.
mm, mm.
And I was like, what cool words. Because, for basketball, it is important for them to be bouncy so then they can go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like
That's true.
they feel so much more relaxed in their body. So then they got
Mm.
the bounce back in their physical body, like truly. And then
Wow.
a lot of the times, the football players always like to say that they are able to lift with higher quality technique and
Mm,
heavier
mm,
after our recovery sessions because you
mm.
take the time to unlock your body and you get the time to slow down just a little bit so you can speed up in your training. And I
Yeah.
feel like for athletes, that's where it's at.
It's
You
huge.
slow down a little bit, you're not going to die. Slowing
Yeah.
down for a little bit is okay because over here you get to speed up.
Yeah.
And this is where you get to really go ahead. And so it's really fun because each team kind of has their own, each sport has their own culture and their verbiage. And so it's like, I would never have thought, like, oh, after an active recovery Pilates session, I would feel like more bouncy. That's
Yeah.
like not
Yeah.
my language. But for them, they were like, Coach Alicia, and they so what wonderful, beautiful, and really funny feedback.
I love to hear that. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know the basketball world much at all. That's, it's a foreign world to me. So I love to hear that.
Yeah.
How often do your teams come in to train to do group sessions? Is it
So
monthly?
typically, if it's an individual athlete that's coming in, he or she's coming in 2 or 3 times a week, depending on if it's, depending on if they're in town. If they're not in town, then we're doing virtual training. If
Oh,
it's a team, then I go to the team once a week.
nice. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Do you bring bands, the kits? You know what I'm talking about? Or
Yeah, so I actually do not bring anything with me
okay.
because I think the biggest lesson is you don't need fancy equipment. And
Mhm.
this is coming from a Pilates teacher. The Pilates studio is fully equipped and we love it. But
Yeah.
truly, you don't need any equipment.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
you need is your commitment, a few minutes, a
Yeah.
towel, a yoga mat, just something very simple. So it's
Yeah.
like I come into a team of like however, each team has different sizes, but
Yeah.
it could be anywhere between team of 20
Yeah.
to 125.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be a lot of equipment. That would be so much. I need like
Yeah.
a hand for all of that equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. You need someone to come and
I
assist
need
with.
an assistant to haul all this stuff in. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I don't bring anything because I really want to teach the teams and
Okay.
teach the players and teach the athletes like truthfully in cross training, you don't need much.
Yeah. It's true. It's, yeah, because that's the key. It's cross training. Yes, exactly. So then what does your training schedule look like? Your physical, like for your workouts and stuff. What does your training schedule look like?
So I train my body for my personal stuff seasonally. So right
Mhm.
now we're coming into winter. I walk 4 or 5 times a week and I go to yoga 3 times a week and I do Pilates once a week.
Okay, cool.
And then in the spring, that will change to walking 3 or 4 times, depending on the weather, because I'm in Houston, Texas, and it gets really spicy outside with the heat. So as soon as it starts to like be boiling outside, I would do less walking, and
Mhm.
then I'll add in strength training. I'll add in more Pilates, like classical Pilates movement, and
Mhm.
then I will decrease on the yoga.
Okay. And then
Yeah.
what is summer like? I like this. I like this. Changing.
Summer, I like to play a lot. So whether that means I'm playing tennis, I'm playing pickleball, I'm playing on a sand volleyball like league, you
Yeah.
know, just not during the daytime, in the evening time when the weather is a little bit cooler. I like to move my body in a playful manner. So during the summers, I'm a little bit less regimented.
Okay, I like it. That's awesome. I like that whole season. I mean that literally speaks to what you were saying in the beginning of flowing with the seasons and what it is, and just being really aware of, how it's gonna switch from season to season.
Exactly. And it works for me. It might not work for other people, but you really got to take an honest look at your schedule and your style and where you're at in life, in season, in energy on your monthly cycle. Like, I believe all of these things are really important to consider.
Yeah, no, I think that's really true, and I think that that cycle is a whole other topic, and I don't want to go too far. I know we're about time, but I really appreciate you hopping on and sharing with everyone all about Pilates and what you do. It's awesome. It's really great.
Thank you for having me, and what a fun and much needed conversation.
Yes, absolutely.